Herbert Hoover became president in March 1929, the country was doing well, or it seemed to be. People called it the Roaring Twenties, but things quickly went bad. Just a few months later, the stock market crashed. This started the Great Depression. It was a terrible time for America. Millions lost their jobs. Banks failed. Farms dried up. People lost their homes. Hoover was in charge during all this. It was a huge weight on his shoulders. He worked incredibly hard. He tried many things to fix the economy. He spent long hours in the White House. He met with advisors, he made speeches, he traveled a little. But mostly, he was stuck in Washington trying to solve problems that seemed impossible. All this stress took a toll on him. He was a smart man. He was an engineer by training. He believed in hard work and self-reliance, but even he couldn't escape the physical effects of such immense pressure. He started to gain weight. He wasn't a young man anymore. He was in his mid-50s when he became president. His body needed exercise, it needed to move. His doctor, Charles F. Lee, noticed the change. He saw Hoover getting heavier, he saw the fatigue, he knew the president needed to stay fit. A healthy mind often comes from a healthy body, and a president, especially one dealing with a national crisis, really needed a clear mind. The problem was, Hoover did not have much time. His schedule was packed from early morning until late at night. He couldn't just take off for an hour or two to play golf or go for a long walk. Those kinds of activities did not fit his life. Hoover did enjoy some outdoor activities before he was president. He liked fishing, he liked hiking, but the presidency, and especially the Depression, changed everything. The public eye was always on him. Every move was watched. He could not just relax like before. He had to be careful. So the president faced a problem. He was under huge stress. He was gaining weight. His doctor wanted him to get exercise, but he had no time. He also needed something that would be effective, something that would get his heart rate up, something that would work his muscles, and it had to be quick, maybe 15 or 20 minutes a day. That was all he could spare. This was not a small challenge. Most presidents had their own ways of staying active. Teddy Roosevelt loved boxing and horseback riding. Lincoln walked a lot, but Hoover's situation was unique. The country was in a crisis. He couldn't be seen playing games while people starved. But he also couldn't afford to get sick or too tired to lead. His doctor kept pushing the idea of physical activity. He knew it was vital. He understood the connection between body and mind. He knew a bit of sweat could clear a person's head. It could also make a person sleep better. And Hoover definitely needed good sleep. The problems of the country did not rest, and neither did he, it seemed. The idea of inventing a sport was not in Hoover's mind. He was thinking about tariffs and unemployment figures. He was thinking about how to get people back to work. He was thinking about how to restore hope. But the need for personal fitness was still there. It was a background hum, a quiet worry for his doctor. The doctor started thinking about what kind of exercise would work. It had to be intense. It had to be short. It had to involve a few people, so it was not boring. And it had to be easily played right there at the White House. No long trips to a gym or a field. Hoover was not naturally athletic in the way some people are. He was more of an intellectual. He liked to think and plan. But he also valued discipline. If he was told something was good for him, he would try to do it. He knew duty, and staying healthy enough to do his job was part of his duty, so the stage was set. A stressed president, a worried doctor, a need for a new kind of fitness routine. Something had to give. Something new had to be found. It needed to be simple. It needed to be effective. It needed to fit into a tiny sliver of time. This was how the unusual problem started. And it would lead to a very unusual solution, a solution that would get his blood pumping, a solution that would get his body moving, a solution that would later carry his name. The pressure was on Herbert Hoover. He was tired, he was stressed, he was gaining weight. And his doctor, Charles F. Lee, knew something had to change. Dr. Lee was not just a physician. He was also a clever man. He understood the limits of presidential time. He knew Hoover could not waste a minute. So he had to come up with something specific. Dr. Lee did not invent a whole new sport out of nothing. He looked at what already existed, he thought about common games, and then he made a twist. He took the basic idea of volleyball, a net, a ball, two sides, but he changed a very important part. He replaced the light volleyball with a heavy medicine ball. This was the key. A medicine ball is not like a regular ball. It is heavy. It can weigh from 2 pounds to over 20 pounds. Dr. Lee chose one that was around 6 to 9 pounds. This weight made a huge difference. You could not just bat it over the net with your hands. You had to throw it. and when you caught it, you had to really brace yourself. This meant more work for the whole body. The game needed a name. It quickly got one. People started calling it Hooverball. It was simple. It stuck, and it made sense. It was Hoover's game, even if his doctor designed it. The rules were pretty simple at first. Two teams would stand on opposite sides of a volleyball net. The net was set at the normal volleyball height, which is around 8 feet high. One team would serve the medicine ball. They had to throw it over the net. The other team had to catch it, they couldn't let it bounce. If it bounced, the serving team got a point. Or, if the receiving team dropped it, the serving team got a point. After catching it, the receiving team had to throw it back over the net. Again, no bouncing. The game went back and forth. It was fast, it was intense, it was a real workout. Where did they play this game? Right there on the White House lawn. There was a tennis court, but they set up a net on a grass patch next to it. It was convenient. Hoover could walk out of the residence, play for 15 or 20 minutes, and then go back to his work. No travel time, no special equipment other than the ball and net. Hoover did not play alone. That would be boring and less effective. Dr. Lee understood that. He gathered a group of people. These were mostly Hoover's cabinet members. Important men. Busy men. But they joined in. Sometimes White House staff played too. It was a morning ritual. They would meet early, usually around 7 a.m. They would play this intense game. The group of players quickly earned a nickname. They were called the Rough Riders. This was a nod to Theodore Roosevelt's famous cavalry unit. It showed how tough the game was. It was not a gentle sport. It was a vigorous one. It was meant to make you sweat. It was meant to get your heart pumping. Hoover himself often played with a serious look. He was competitive, he wanted to win, he would move around the court, throwing and catching that heavy ball. It was a full body workout. His arms and shoulders worked from throwing, his legs worked from running and jumping to catch the ball. His core muscles worked from the sudden stops and starts. Dr. Lee supervised the games. He made sure everyone played hard. He made sure Hoover got his exercise. He knew this game was good for the president. It was giving him what he needed. A burst of physical activity, a chance to clear his head before starting a day full of heavy decisions. The game also offered a strange kind of break from the intense stress of the Depression. For those few minutes, Hoover wasn't thinking about unemployment or failing businesses. He was focused on the ball, he was focused on the game, he was focused on winning. This mental shift was just as important as the physical benefits. It was a way to reset his mind. Hooverball was unique. It wasn't a sport many people knew about. It was something special to the White House. It was born out of necessity. A president needed to stay fit, a doctor needed to find a way. And a simple game with a heavy ball became the answer. It truly was Hoover's own sport, even if his doctor laid the groundwork. It was designed for him, tailored to his needs and his demanding life. The game started as a way to solve a specific problem. But it became more than that. It became a daily ritual, a way for a president to fight back against the physical and mental drain of the greatest economic crisis in American history. And it started right there on the White House lawn every morning with a heavy medicine ball flying over a net. When the sun was just coming up over Washington, D.C. around 7 a.m., the Rough Riders would gather. Herbert Hoover, usually looking serious, would be among them. They would meet on the White House lawn. A volleyball net was set up, but instead of a light volleyball, a heavy medicine ball was waiting. This was Hooverball in action. The game was tough. The medicine ball, usually around 6 or 9 pounds, felt heavier than it sounds when you had to throw it over an 8-foot net. And then someone on the other side had to catch it. Imagine trying to catch a small bowling ball thrown hard at you. That's a bit what it was like. The rules were clear. A player served the ball by throwing it over the net. It had to land in bounds. The receiving team had to catch it before it touched the ground. If it bounced, the serving team got a point. If the receiving team dropped it, the serving team also got a point. After a successful catch, the team then had to throw the ball back over the net. The play continued until someone messed up. Scoring was straightforward. A point was scored when the other team either failed to catch the ball, let it bounce, or threw it out of bounds. The team that scored continued to serve. Games were played to a set number of points, maybe 15 or 21, just like in volleyball. But because the ball was heavy and the action was intense, the games often did not last too long. Perhaps 15 to 20 minutes for a full session. That was all Hoover could spare. The physical demands were high. Players had to run. They had to jump. They had to twist their bodies to catch the ball. Then they had to use a lot of power to throw it back. This worked almost every major muscle group. Arms and shoulders got strong from throwing. Legs got a workout from sprinting and jumping. The core muscles tightened from the quick movements and catching the heavy ball. It was a full body conditioning routine. Hoover himself was quite competitive. He didn't just stand there. He moved. He called out plays. He enjoyed the challenge. It might have been the only time of day he could truly let loose a little, even with his serious nature. For those few minutes, he was just another player trying to win. The stress of the presidency seemed to fade away, replaced by the focus on the game. The Rough Riders weren't always graceful. These were cabinet members, not professional athletes. There were probably some dropped balls, some wild throws, some awkward dives, but that was part of the fun. It was a shared experience, a moment of physical exertion and friendly competition. It created a bond among these busy men. They were all in it together, helping their president stay fit. Dr. Lee was usually there watching. He made sure the game was vigorous enough. He knew Hoover needed that intense burst of exercise. The goal wasn't just fun, it was fitness, and Hooverball delivered. It raised heart rates. It built strength, it got them breathing hard. Sometimes the game would have a few more players than others. It usually involved about 6 to 10 people in total, split into 2 teams. This made the court active. Everyone had to be ready. The ball could come to anyone. The early morning routine was key. Getting the exercise done first thing meant it wouldn't be skipped. It meant Hoover would start his day energized. His mind would be sharper. His body would feel better. It was a proactive approach to managing the incredible pressure he was under. The game often ended with everyone sweating. They would quickly cool down. Then Hoover would head back inside. He would shower and get ready for the day. A day filled with the weight of the nation. But he would face it with a body that had just been pushed. A mind that had just been cleared. Because Hooverball was not a fancy sport. It was practical. It was efficient. It was designed to get results. And it did. For those few years of his presidency, Herbert Hoover used this unique game to maintain his health. It was a testament to his discipline and his doctor's ingenuity. The White House lawn, usually a place for formal events, became a small arena for this powerful, if unusual, sport. It was a brief but potent escape, a daily dose of physical challenge that helped the president endure one of the toughest times in American history. After Herbert Hoover left the White House in 1933, Hooverball largely went with him. The game had been specifically designed for his needs. It was played by his staff and cabinet. Once he was no longer president, the daily ritual stopped. The volleyball net was probably taken down and the medicine ball put away. For many years, Hooverball became little more than a historical footnote, a quirky story about a president and his unique way of staying fit during the Great Depression. But the game did not totally disappear. It held a certain appeal. The idea of a simple, intense workout using just a net and a heavy ball was a good one. It was efficient, it was effective, and it had a presidential name attached to it. Over the decades, Hooverball saw small bursts of interest. People would rediscover the story of Hoover and his game. Sometimes, local fitness enthusiasts or history buffs would try to revive it. They might set up a net and get a medicine ball. They would try to play it the way Hoover and his Rough Riders did. In more recent times, Hooverball has experienced something of a resurgence. It's often featured in articles or documentaries about presidential history. It's seen as a fun, challenging workout. Many people today are looking for new ways to stay fit. They want something different from the usual gym routine. Hooverball fits that need perfectly. Today, you can find Hooverball tournaments. There's even a National Hooverball Championship. This event is held every year in West Branch, Iowa. That's where Herbert Hoover was born. It's a way to honor his legacy and keep the unique sport alive. Players from all over come to compete. They take the game seriously. The modern game is pretty much the same as Hoover played it. The rules are still simple. Throw a medicine ball over a net. Catch it. Throw it back. Don't let it bounce. The main difference might be the competitive level. Today's players train for it. They try to master the throws and catches. They use specific strategies. The weight of the medicine ball is still key. It makes the game a strength and cardio workout at the same time. You run, you jump. You throw with power. You catch with strength. It tests your endurance. It tests your agility. It tests your raw power. It is still a very demanding game, just as Dr. Lee intended it to be for President Hoover. Hooverball also shows up in high school gyms or college recreation centers sometimes. Physical education teachers or coaches might introduce it as a fun way to get students active. It's a different kind of sport, it breaks the routine, and it comes with a cool historical story. The enduring appeal of Hooverball comes from a few things. First, its simplicity. You don't need a lot of complex equipment, just a net and a ball. Second, its effectiveness. It's a truly great workout. Third, its historical connection. Playing Hooverball connects you to a unique moment in presidential history. You're playing the same game a president played to battle stress and stay healthy during a national crisis. It's interesting how a personal fitness routine for one man could become a niche sport for others. Hoover didn't set out to invent a sport for the ages. He just needed to sweat. He needed to move. His doctor found a practical solution, but that solution stuck around. Other presidents had their own fitness routines. Eisenhower golfed, Kennedy played touch football, Bush Sr. liked speed golf, but Hooverball is unique because it was created for a president. It was born out of a very specific need and a very specific moment in time. So, while Hooverball may not be as widely known as basketball or football, it has carved out its own small place. It represents a resourceful solution to a difficult problem. It stands as a testament to the idea that sometimes you have to invent your own path, even if that path involves a heavy ball and an early morning workout on the White House lawn. Its story is a quiet reminder of the challenges leaders face and the clever ways they sometimes find to meet them. Herbert Hoover's daily Hooverball game was more than just a passing fancy. It was a serious commitment, and it had real effects on his health. Before Hooverball, the president was gaining weight. The long hours, the constant stress, and the lack of proper exercise were taking their toll. Dr. Lee was genuinely worried. Once Hooverball became a regular part of his morning, things started to change. The intense, short bursts of activity helped him. He did lose some weight. His muscles got stronger, especially in his arms and shoulders from all the throwing. His stamina improved. He felt more alert. The physical benefits were clear, but the game also had a huge impact on his mental state. Leading a country through the Great Depression was incredibly stressful. Every day brought new bad news. Every decision carried immense weight. It was easy to feel overwhelmed. Hoover, known for his reserved and serious nature, carried this burden deeply. Hooverball offered a critical break. For those 15 or 20 minutes each morning, he wasn't President Hoover. He was just a player. He was focused on the heavy ball, the net, and the competition. This allowed his mind to disconnect from the crisis. It gave him a chance to clear his head. He could come back to his desk feeling refreshed. He could think more clearly. Stress reduction was a huge, perhaps unquantifiable benefit. It also showed a different side of Hoover. The public mostly saw him as stern, formal, and somewhat distant. But on the court, with his raw riders, he was active. He was competitive. He was engaged in a very physical way. While he still likely maintained his serious demeanor, there was a raw energy to him during the game. It was a glimpse of a more vigorous, perhaps even slightly more playful, side that the public rarely saw. His commitment to Hooverball showed his discipline. Even with the immense pressure of his job, he stuck to his routine. He understood the importance of physical well-being. He knew that to effectively lead, he needed to be physically and mentally sharp. It was part of his duty to stay fit. The doctor, Charles F. Lee, must have been very pleased. His plan had worked. He found a way for the president to get the vigorous exercise he needed. He kept the president healthier during a time that could have easily broken him down completely. Hooverball didn't solve the Great Depression. Nothing a morning game could do would fix such a vast economic problem. But it did help the man who was trying to solve it. It helped him cope. It helped him endure. It provided him with the physical and mental resilience needed to face each new day of crisis. The image of President Hoover playing his unique sport is a small but telling detail in American history. It reminds us that even presidents are human. They face stress. They need to take care of themselves. And sometimes they need unique solutions to do it. Hoover's presidency is often remembered for the hard times. But this little story about Hooverball adds a human touch. It shows a man who, despite everything, was committed to his health. He was willing to try something new and demanding to stay in shape. The sport lives on today, a testament to its effectiveness and its interesting origin. It stands as a unique legacy from a president whose time in office was dominated by crisis. It's a reminder that ingenuity can come in many forms, even in the design of a simple game to help a president stay fit. And, yes, Herbert Hoover did, through his doctor's invention, get his own sport to stay fit. A sport that bore his name and helped him through one of the most challenging periods any president has ever faced.